It's the most expensive prison escape in history.
This moment in a tunnel in Mexico. A lord escaping
It's about El Chapo.
from an inescapable prison. This is the most incredible prison escape of all time. At least, I think so. I mean,
Yeah, this one with the helicopter tour, right?
just recreate another crazy prison escape with Mark Rober and Cleo Abram, where we literally escaped Alcatraz on a raft made out of raincoats, which was totally insane and questionable in terms of safety. That video is live now on Mark's channel. But even after all of that, in a lot of ways, I think the escape I'm about to show you is even crazier.
Entre la primera fuga y la segunda, ¿qué pasó durante esos años?
This is a story about a prison escape. Two, actually. But there's also a story about this one guy, a fairly short guy, El Chapo, they called him. He's a Robin Hood-like figure who built a massive drug empire, became one of the richest people on earth. He was able to command the loyalty of everyone around him. Not just
He's a billionaire, right?
members of his cartel, but also prison staff, police, military, elected officials at all levels and even in other countries.
La Coordinadora Nacional de las Prisiones, diputada local de Sinaloa, la alcaldesa de La Paz, están proveyendo servicios que es una relación de acuerdos y de favores que se benefician mutuamente.
So, let me tell you the story of El Chapo and how he
So
pulled
they all corrupt basically.
off what I think is the greatest prison escape of all time. Joaquin Archibaldo Guzman Loera grew up in a village cradled in the mountains of northern Mexico. He grew up in a poor, abusive home, but found a way out in the form of moving were increasingly in demand to the north. By the age of 15, him and his cousin had their own plantation. He eventually rose the ranks to become the leader of what would soon be one of the top drug cartels on earth, Sinaloa Cartel, that moved a variety of to the US and Europe and soon all over the world.
Que se va moviendo con los cambios políticos del país para siempre estar con amigos y con aliados.
Guzman wasn't tall, 164 centimeters, like 5 feet 6 inches. This is what earned him his nickname of Shorty.
I mean, it's a kind of like medium
And that is
size.
what I will be calling him for the rest of the video. As El Chapo got deeper and deeper into the business, he proved to be a master of logistics. He revolutionized the way that drugs were smuggled north. He would eventually go on to specialize in building tunnels, a lot of them under the US-Mexico border. Not just like one or two, but like over 120 big tunnels. And with time, these tunnels became more and more sophisticated engineering feats with well-designed structural supports, lighting, ventilation. Here's one that his team would eventually build in Tijuana, 1.3 kilometers long. Wait a minute. So I lived in Tijuana for 2 years when I was a Mormon missionary, and I actually lived right next to one of these tunnels, probably while it was active. Whoa. Anyway, that's beside the point. So El Chapo grows into this sort of moving logistics guy, but eventually law enforcement catches on, and soon he's on the run.
Al Chapo lo capturan por primera vez en 1993.
The police are chasing him, and he's moving south. He's attracted too much attention, so he's trying to leave the country. He crosses into Guatemala, right here at a border crossing. Wait, I've also been at this border crossing. I once rode with a bunch of young dudes to illegally cross this border under the bridge where you're supposed to cross the border. Anyway, story for another day. So El Chapo crosses the border with this fake passport. He makes it past Guatemala City, only to be stopped by a Guatemalan law enforcement checkpoint. The soldiers expected a shootout, but El Chapo went peacefully. He was sent back to Mexico, where he ended up in this high security prison. He eventually got transferred to a different prison, from which he would plot his first escape.
Yeah, in Mexico they have all undergrounds.
This is your brain. That's why.
Okay, let's talk about his prison escapes. Probably the reason you clicked on this video in the first place. We're gonna visualize both of
So
these.
how much does it cost
But let me just
to
tell you that
actually
unlike
take the
many
tunnel?
prison escapes that rely on ingenuity and result in like amazing inventions like boats made out of raincoats, El Chapo had a very important tool in his toolkit: bribery, persuasion, the ability to pay money to get security guards and leadership on his side. This was a very important tool, especially for this first one.
Lleva a cabo toda la parte de la fuga, dando sobornos directos.
So, It's the early 90s, and El Chapo is sitting in this high-security prison cell. Got hundreds of security cameras, it's got all these like fancy electric doors, it's got these big towers, 360-degree view of the facility. This place is secure. But because he is a master of bribery and persuasion, within a short time, he cozies up to guards and recruits them to his side. He supports their family, he gives them generous payouts, and in exchange, he gets all kinds of things.
Se empieza a decir, oye, quiero ropa nueva, quiero zapatos nuevos, quiero un celular. A pesar de ser una cárcel de alta seguridad, podían conseguir que les cocinaran carne, podían tener whisky, podían
So
tener
basically living a normal life.
visitas pues, de múltiples mujeres, podían tener una vida de lujo al interior de la cárcel.
I mean, he's kind of living the life in prison, still running his cartel from within these prison walls, thanks to all of this bribery that he has successfully done to sway these guards onto his team.
Oye, nuestros socios de Colombia nos deben esta cantidad de dinero y tú le tienes que pasar esta cantidad de cocaína a tal persona y tienes que cobrarle a tal persona.
But soon, there's talk of the Mexican government sending El Chapo to the United States to potentially be tried and imprisoned there. That would not be good for El Chapo, so by the early 2000s, he starts plotting his first escape. Right, back to El Chapo. I think we're like in 2001. So, January 19th, 2001. It's the final call for lights out. The guards have done their final checks, and most inmates are settling in for the night, like they do every night. But El Chapo is anxiously awaiting in his cell. He's made some plans with one of the corrupt guards, or several, actually. And when the time arrives, in comes his trusted prison guard who works in the prison laundry. This guy's name is El Chito. Don't get it confused with El Chapo. They sound the same. Doesn't really matter. El Chito's name, like he's gonna not be a big part of the story after this escape. El Chito's wheeling in a laundry cart full of dirty prison uniforms, and he quietly opens the electric door to El Chapo's cell. El Chapo eventually climbs into the laundry cart, burrows himself underneath the dirty clothes. Now, there were lots of security cameras around here, but none of them
Is this believable?
caught this because they were mysteriously turned off. So yeah, it wasn't just El Chito. There's like other people who are doing things to make this happen. Anyway, the guard wheels the cart through the prison block doors. The high-tech design's meant to keep it so that only one door opens at a
I
time.
mean, might as well just let them walk out then. Why go all through this?
All opened smoothly for this escape. They get out to a final security checkpoint, and the guard there asks, "Where are you going at this hour?" El Chito calmly replies that he's taking out the laundry as he did every night. Now, the guard did look at this overstuffed laundry cart. He even went to search it, looking for contraband. Apparently, guards would like steal the prison microwave, and so he was like looking like, "Hey, are you stealing the microwave again?" Alas, no microwave. And in fact, this guard didn't find any contraband. I mean, he wasn't looking for a full-size human body at the bottom of the cart. So he waves them through. They're now in the parking lot.
Really? You don't even look at it?
One wall and checkpoint away
Yeah, suspicious.
from freedom. They're still gonna have to pass through this car checkpoint to get out of the prison walls. First, they get to the car, a Chevy Monte Carlo. Monte Carlo. I don't know what year this one was, but this one from the 70s is super sick. The one from 2006 is like the most uninspiring vehicle I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, El Chapo is in the trunk of the Chevy Monte Carlo, year unknown. El Chito gets in the car and starts driving to the main gate, and this is where they get to the final guard. But it's late at this point. It's the end of this guy's shift. He kind of half-heartedly searches the car, looking through the windows, but ignoring the trunk where El Chapo is literally hiding. He waves them through,
What about the radiation?
and El Chapo is free, and no one will discover it for hours.
Investigaron a
You
71
didn't mention about the radiation.
personas, de las cuales fueron arrestadas 61.
Including the warden who is the head honcho of the prison. He had help. A lot of help. This gives you a flavor of El Chapo and his team and his ability to corrupt people and whatever, but this is basic compared to the second one. For now, it's the early 2000s and El Chapo is on the loose again. He's about to take his empire to a whole new level.
Es la gran expansión del cártel de Sinaloa.
And now I'm going to do an ad read because this is a great time to do an ad read right in the middle. Don't leave. Probably hiding out in his mountain fortress in the mountains of northern Mexico. El Cielo, he called it. I mean, look at this place. It's perched on this beautiful ridge overlooking his old village. That's the village he grew up in. And he like returned to it after escaping from jail and just like, I'm just gonna like be up on the ridge. No one will find me. And they didn't. Mexico descends into an ever more violent drug war. Meanwhile, he grows his empire.
Crece muchísimo la operación del cártel de Sinaloa. Controlaban y dominaban también mediante violencia con órdenes directas del Chapo.
Now, these are the years that I lived in Tijuana, like mid-2000s. And boy, the war was alive and well. I would hitchhike everywhere. That's how we got around. And we would sometimes get picked up by... And because we were men of God, because we were like missionaries, they were like nice to us, and they would give us rides, and they would tell us to pray for them and their business.
That's risky.
Which I did not do. That was a crazy time. Like the front pages were always these like very violent events that were happening in Tijuana and along the border everywhere. And my parents were very stressed all of the time for good reason. Anyway, man, I'm distractible today. This is the era where he builds a lot of his like tunnels under the border, and he establishes this huge hub of in Chicago in the United States where he distributes a lot of this more and more coming from Colombia up through Mexico, through the border, through lots of different means, including El Chapo's tunnels, and then to Chicago, where it was then funneled out to lots of different places, flowing to Canada and Europe and West Africa and Asia. His flying on private jets from Chicago to Australia. Like, there's a lot of money in this, and it was a huge global network. And El Chapo was getting super rich, one of the richest guys on earth. He had at least 3 private jets. He had a private zoo. Shout out to his predecessor, Pablo Escobar. Let's just hope there weren't any hippos. If you know, you know. He had houses all over Mexico, and crucially, which will come in later in the story, all of his houses were rigged with like secret trapdoors and escape tunnels. The guy loved tunnels. Like, tunnels were his thing, and it would allow him not only to smuggle drugs, but to get out of his houses if he needed to. In 2009, he's included in the Forbes list of wealthiest people in the world, 701. How do they even calculate that? Like, how do they know how much money? This is all like, how do they know how much he's worth? I guess Forbes has their ways. And during all of these years, Mexican law enforcement is trying
how does Forbes actually
to track him
calculate?
down, and they're having no success doing so. They get close sometimes. Like, one time he was getting married in a secret wedding to this American beauty queen, Emma Coronel, and this wedding gets raided, but like El Chapo's guards form a human shield lining up on ATVs reportedly, allowing El Chapo to just melt away into the wilderness and somehow slip away again. I mean, the guy is good. I mean, he's not good, but he pretended to be good, and people started to see him as like this Robin Hood figure, anti-establishment, an image that was helped by these photos that he would occasionally post while he was like on the run of him just at a random house holding a big gun surrounded by a bunch of nice cars. I wonder if like that GeoGuessr guy could find out where this is. Could the GeoGuessr guy who like knows everything about it, could he find this? Can we challenge him officially? GeoGuessr master, find where this photo was taken.
Not in the cartel area.
Because if he can, he will have out-OSINTed the literal investigators from the Mexican law enforcement. In one oft-repeated story that I have no way of verifying the truthfulness of, El Chapo would saunter into a local restaurant with his gunmen, confiscate everyone's phones, and treat everyone to dinner, paying the bill before disappearing into the night. These stories would add to his image as this like kind of benevolent Robin Hood type figure.
Es una persona muy carismática. La gente lo quiere y lo admira. Hay sombreros, figuritas. Representa un poco como alguien que la armó, que vino de la nada y logró todo esto y como in spite of la política corrupta mexicana.
But don't be fooled. This guy was not a Robin Hood.
Por el otro lado, por supuesto, está el lado de la violencia. Les cortaba las orejas,
I mean, why would he be holding gun there?
hizo cavar su tumba y acostarse en su tumba. Y este policía es acribillado a balazos en una camioneta en la que viajaba con su esposa y sus 2 hijos.
His drug empire resulted in lots of addiction and suffering, all to enrich him and his team.
Hay mucha violencia entre cárteles, pero también hay mucha violencia del ejército hacia los cárteles. Tienes que pagar para seguir manteniendo tu negocio y si no la pagas, pues te matamos o te desaparecemos.
Not to mention all of the corruption that he propagated with his ill-gotten gains, contributing to what is already a system that suffers from a lot of corruption and bribery. So no, not Robin Hood. Boy, but people latched onto him as a symbol of the failure of the government, in fact. Why couldn't they catch this guy? By 2013, he is named Public Enemy #1 by the Chicago Crime Commission. Now, he's only the second person to ever get that label. The first being this guy, Al Capone, aka Scarface, the Italian mafia boss. So they have to get him. Everyone's like, we have to get El Chapo. So the Mexican government trains an elite force of 200 soldiers with the specific mission of capturing El Chapo. And with time and a lot of effort and some collaboration with the United States, they finally corner him. It's February 2014 in Culiacan, which is the capital of Sinaloa. He's hiding in one of his safe houses.
Y a las 3 de la mañana empieza a avisarle a uno de sus secretarios, nos tenemos que ir.
The troops bust down the door, but as soon as they do, they see that El Chapo was already gone. They had missed him by 8 minutes, and he had escaped through, you guessed it, one of his tunnels. I mean, look at this. Here's a CNN reporter on the scene looking at this tunnel that is inside one of the bathtubs.
Beneath this bathtub, a secret tunnel. You can see it's been quite carefully constructed out of wood, and if you go through this door, you find yourself in the sewage system of Culiacan. Discovered this entire network of underground
That's almost livable.
tunnels and safe houses, and the tunnel system comes out right here.
Wow. Great shots. So he got away, again, but they're getting close. Okay, now it's 5 days later from the bathtub tunnel sewer escape. And American intelligence agents are helping track El Chapo down. They're spying on one of his safe houses in a high-rise, and they detect people inside. It's El Chapo, so they prepare to move in. And at dawn the next morning, Mexican Navy commandos break in. They burst inside, and they find El Chapo asleep. The raid was over as soon as it started. No shots
That easy.
were fired. I mean, the guy was literally sleeping. He was captured without a struggle, and now he's back in prison again. This is Altiplano.
La cárcel del Altiplano está muy cerca de la Ciudad de México. Es una cárcel de máxima seguridad donde han pasado muchísimos narcotraficantes.
And let me show you this place. It consists of 3 reinforced concrete walls, each a meter thick and around 6 meters high. You've got barbed wire fences, all of this super lit up at night. You've got
No underground protection.
seven watchtowers all throughout the perimeter. And you've got tons of checkpoints that you must pass through just to get into the prison. The perimeter is continually patrolled by armed guards, including federal police units. Mexican authorities declared the area above the prison a no-fly zone. They put cell phone signal jammers for a 10-kilometer radius around the prison. All of this to prevent drones or radio communication or whatever. This prison had an estimated 750 surveillance cameras all throughout the interior and exterior. Every cell block and corridor, point of entry, guard post, virtually every millimeter of this place monitored 24 hours a day. To get from the entry of the prison to the innermost secured area, there were 26 security checkpoints. 26, each guarded with thick doors with electronically monitored locks, requiring badge or fingerprint verification. El Chapo was given his own personal guard 24 hours a day, and the guards would swap in and out frequently so that he couldn't bribe one guard and start to like develop a relationship, i.e. pay them off. Even the soil around the prison was monitored with sensors and ground penetrating radar to detect any digging. We'll see how well those work in just a second. All of these sensors and cameras were fed into one central command center where the prison guards could monitor every inch of this place 24/7. Now let's look at El Chapo's cell. He's placed deep within the bowels of this prison. Like, that looks like a window. It's not a window. It's artificial light. Pretends to look like a window. You have to unlock 2 doors to get into this prison cell. The cell itself is 5 square meters, like 50, 60 square feet. Tiny. Simple bed, basic toilet, a sink, and a small shower stall. And unlike most of the inmates, El Chapo got his own personal security camera that monitored him all of the time inside of his cell. Look at this footage. This footage was just live being fed to the command center. And the security camera can see literally everything. Well, not literally.
So why isn't the bathroom like on security camera?
Everything, because there's this wall. It's a tiny little wall. It's a little privacy barrier, like in his shower. It's not that big. Like, let the guy have a little bit of privacy while he's showering, especially because footage
No, especially if it's track cartel.
this camera was like live streamed, not just to the prison command center, but I've read like it was also being fed out to external monitoring posts. Like there were people maybe like in Mexico City or something that were also had access to this feed of his cell. So it's like, give the guy some privacy. That's what this wall was for. That was foreshadowing. Anyway, you get the point. This place was considered inescapable. But even still, after all of this stuff, the government
So there's not even a toilet in there. Why would he be getting privacy there?
sent elite troops to the prison just to like keep watch over the area to make sure nothing could happen. It is for this reason that the president of Mexico at the time said that if El Chapo gets out, it would be, quote, unforgivable for the Mexican state. But the king of illegal logistics loves a good challenge. He also loves tunnels, and so do his people. He wasn't going to let an impenetrable fortress stop him and his team.
Un mes o 2 meses después de que lo detienen, él empieza a planear su fuga. Y lo hace a través de las visitas de su esposa Emma Coronel. Y él saca a través de Emma los recados o las instrucciones de lo que tienen que hacer sus personas afuera.
Now let's go to a field that is 1 kilometer away from the prison. Doesn't look like much, just a field, right? Huh. Looks like they're building something. Well, yes, indeed. Soon after the imprisonment of El Chapo, a quiet purchase was made of this plot of land. And you see this simple construction activity. I don't know, I lived in Mexico for a long time. This is a really normal looking thing all over, like half-finished cinder block structures and walls, rebar everywhere. Like you see that everywhere, especially in the rural areas. So this looked like nothing. It just looked like a farmer setting up a random field and just sort of slowly working on some project. Construction materials coming in and out, truck, field full of dirt, lots of dirt that is going into this area contained within this wall. Okay, but what's really happening is El Chapo's digging experts are hard at work inside of this little building. Digging 7 meters deep, like 21, 22 feet. After 7 meters down, they start to dig horizontally. Month after month, they dig. Meanwhile, some of El Chapo's guys are in Germany.
So how about the underground sonar activity or
tunnel
something?
engineering, bringing back their wisdom to make this tunnel one of their best. Soon the tunnel would have lighting, ventilation. It would be 1.5 meters tall, like, I don't know, 4.5 feet. Not as tall as El Chapo himself, but not far off. 70 centimeters wide. 70 centimeters, 2 inches. I will never use the metric system, and I made an entire video as to why. It's an oldie, but a goodie. 27 inches. A little over 2 feet wide. That's how wide it was. So 4.5 tall, 27 wide, and they're digging towards the prison. And they're installing rails anchored to the bottom of this tunnel and rigging a motorcycle to run along these rails, like train motorcycle. After about a year of all of this, they had dug to directly under the prison. That's 1 kilometer of digging. And nobody noticed. Nobody noticed. Because it was all quietly happening in this tiny shed. Dirt just discreetly filling up
I
this
thought other prisoners heard the noise.
like walled area. Okay, so they're here. Now they have to go up. Okay, but this is what's tricky, and this was my biggest question of the entire thing, which is like, you're going up, you have to aim perfectly, because they're not just trying to hit the prison. They need to hit specifically El Chapo's cell, and not just El Chapo's cell. Specifically, they were aiming for the one tiny little portion of El Chapo's cell that was covered by this visual barrier. Like, it is like a really, really small margin of error. They have to hit it perfectly. And one of my big questions going into this is, how on earth did they do that? And I'm here to tell you that we don't actually have a satisfying answer on that, at least in our reporting. And so this is what's crazy. Real quick, remember when we did the big thing where we showed you all of the like 26 checkpoints and all the walls and barbed wire and cell jamming? For all of this insane security horizontally, vertically, it was much weaker. El Chapo's cell was sitting atop just 7 centimeters of concrete, like 7 centimeters. Oh God, 7 centimeters, 2.7 inches. This much concrete is what was protecting his cell from the soil. So it's like a fortress everywhere else, because no one thought they were gonna like, yeah. And again, the reporting on this is fairly spotty, but apparently he had a GPS device. So yes, once again, there's someone on the inside who's helping. How did he get a GPS inside of his cell? And how does a GPS device travel through like a bunch of dirt? I'm gonna be honest, of all the aspects of this that we really reported in English and Spanish, this part, how they went up and hit the right cell, is the biggest like puzzle for me. And there's a lot of different like theories, but I haven't seen like rock solid explanation or evidence. And we looked. They start going up and they actually hit the wrong cell first. They went up to the wrong place. So they went back down and they dug up again. And this time they hit it right on the money.
So they did it 2 times then.
So it's July 15th, 2015. This tunnel that cost
So
them
not perfect then.
tens of millions of dollars to complete is done. They choose a weekend when the prison security was thinnest. It's a July evening, 8:52 p.m. El Chapo is pacing around in his cell. He's restless. And then, in a flash, he heads over to his shower. He ducks behind it. Is he taking a shower? Does he need privacy? No. He's gone. He slips down a small square door, climbs down a ladder. His wife's brother is waiting for him there, and he's looking at this tunnel. Now, I can imagine that in this moment, and I'm speculating here, that despite the adrenaline and the fear, El Chapo looks around at this tunnel and takes a moment to admire the thorough work of his team. The place is well lit, it's fairly large, the tunnel is equipped with a ventilation system, and look, there's a motorcycle on a rail system. They both get on this motorcycle turned prison escape rail car thing, and in the dim tunnel, the little motorcycle engine revs, and they begin their 1-kilometer journey through the darkness, zipping along, carrying El Chapo to freedom. Within just a few minutes, they reach the tunnel's end. They're now below the fake farm shack. They ascend, and soon they're in the dark, fresh air of rural Mexico. There's a handful of men who zip him off. They cross this rough terrain to a warehouse, and there, a small plane is waiting, piloted by one of El Chapo's most trusted pilots. He revs it up, takes off from this makeshift airstrip, and he's gone. Like, that all happened just like that. Back at the prison, they're just realizing that El Chapo is not coming out from behind that privacy barrier. It took them 37 minutes to realize it, but by then, he's already flying northwest. At some time during the flight, El Chapo, being the kind of troll he is, takes to Twitter. He taunts the police. He insults the Mexican president, Enrique Peña Nieto. Remember the guy who said it would be unforgivable if El Chapo got out? Well, he got out. Unforgivable indeed.
El día de ayer, en el Centro Federal de Readaptación Social número 1, Altiplano, se registró la fuga de Joaquín Guzmán Loera.
He escaped from a maximum security prison for the second time.
This is a major slap in the face of the Mexican government.
The big question mark is how high up does it go?
Una gran vergüenza después de haberse levantado el cuello diciendo que ellos habían sido los meros y los buenos, y ellos lo habían detenido, y de repente todo lo que habían levantado en esa narrativa se les venía abajo.
El Chapo is kind of this like symbol of the failure of the state, which like struggles with a lot of corruption, and like El Chapo's very showy escapes represent that failure. And so a lot of people start to like cheer for him. There's all these songs written about his epic escape, these corridos from Sinaloa. It's a style of music that's like always been used for like the folk storytelling of the bandits and the outlaws. If I can't play any of these songs because of copyright, I will flash them on the screen, put them in the description, and you should go listen to them. In fact, listen to them right now on low volume while you watch the rest of this video. No, actually, don't do that. So, El Chapo is back on the run. It's 2015, and now they're really serious. They're like, dude, we gotta get him, and this time for real. So El Chapo is in hiding, but he really wants a movie made about him, so he invites the actor Sean Penn to like come visit and interview him, and like wants to get a movie deal about his story. I mean, this guy, he's really taking some risks here. And Sean Penn is like visiting him right at the time that like the Mexican Marines are like zeroing in on his location. The Sean Penn thing happens, the Marines don't go in, and maybe it's because of Sean Penn, and anyway, that doesn't really matter, because on January 8th, 2016, they're ready for the raid. They zero in on one of his safe houses in Los Mochis, which is another town in Sinaloa. And before you know it, it's the Mexican Marines versus the drug warriors.
So do they make the movie with Sean Penn?
Shootout. And El Chapo is, you guessed it, escaping in a tunnel. This one hidden behind a mirror in his bathroom. I mean, you gotta give the guy credit for like creative use of trapdoors. This one connects to the sewer system. So now El Chapo is in the sewer system of Los Mochis, Sinaloa. He pops out of a manhole. I mean, this would make a good movie, Sean Penn. Like, when are they gonna make the movie? And if they do, I hope they don't overly glorify the fact that this guy isn't. I mean, I can see why he's like this Robin Hood figure, but he's also like a violent, terrible person. Like, we should just remember that and not glorify
anti-hero
by this stuff. No, it's easy to. So he pops out of the sewer system, and by then the whole city is like swarming with law enforcement, and he quickly gets picked up. It's over. Here he is, actually really captured for real, right? Says everyone at the same time. And the answer is yes.
La última vez que lo atrapan saliendo del drenaje, empapado en agua de drenaje.
They send him back to the same prison he just escaped from like a year earlier, but not for long. They hold him there for just a minute before sending him to the Rocky Mountains of the United States. The Alcatraz of the Rockies, they call it. A place that mostly houses alleged and accused terrorists. So he's here now. This is where he is, right this minute, at least at the time I'm filming this. He is moved every 3 months from cell to cell through a series of 1,400 remote-controlled steel doors. He gets 1 hour a day outside, during which guards are peering over him in a small courtyard. The rest of the time, he spends alone in a cell, like literally 23 hours a day. No visits, no talking, no nothing. He's far from his team. He's presumably unable to bribe these guards. His network, his diggers, everything. He doesn't have it. So I think he's here to stay. He was convicted in 2019 of drug trafficking, money laundering, and a million other things. Life in prison plus 30 years somehow. So I think maybe finally the world's most infamous escape
plus 30 years doesn't make sense.
Artist might actually be here to stay.
Los juicios de los narcotraficantes que llegan a Estados Unidos rara vez se tratan sobre la violencia que se vive en México. Siempre los cargos que se imputan son tráfico de cocaína, fentanilo, marihuana, metanfetamina, dirigir una empresa criminal. Rara vez son juicios que dan luz o que dan verdad o justicia a las familias y a las personas en México que están buscando una persona desaparecida, a las familias de los periodistas asesinados y a todas las cientos de víctimas de homicidio y de desaparición que hay en este país. Creo que no hay que perder de luz que todo esto deja decenas y cientos y miles de víctimas.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you're new here, you can subscribe to my channel. I make videos about whatever I'm curious about and try to visualize it in ways. If that's interesting to you, subscribe and you'll see more. I also have a giant backlog of like hundreds of videos we made over the years that are about all kinds of